Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. We have an outstanding guest for you today. He has been a coach for the past 15 years, coaches entrepreneurs, coaches leadership, really coaches personal accountability to take control of your life. So he's such the perfect guest to have on Salty Ginger Talk. His name is Gary Montalvo. You're gonna love the conversation that we're gonna have with him. He's a super bright guy, and I just love his energy and the way he approaches things. And without any further ado, let's just bring Gary on to the channel now. So, Gary, thank you so much for joining us here on Salty Ginger Talk. It's great to have you on the program.
Oh man, I'm so honored. I'm so excited to get in with you and talk. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, so Gary reached out for us. He saw an episode and saw what we were doing, and he is also a podcaster. He's been a business coach for the past like 15 years, so he's got some stories to tell, and I think it's going to be great for you guys to hear from his perspective, the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, and where he's found success and what he's learned when things weren't going so great. And that's what we're about here on Salty Ginger Talk is taking control of your life. And we
Right.
always stress that you have to start taking action, and action will lead you to a good spot. It might not be the spot you set out towards. It might not be the spot you think you want to go to. It might not be the path you think you're going to take. It might not happen
Hmm.
on the time frame you think it's going to take, but it won't happen at all if you don't get off your ass and get moving. So, that's what
Amen.
we preach. And so Gary's got an interesting story. So that's enough of me rambling. Gary, if you wouldn't mind, if you could start, you didn't start as a coach, right? You started doing other things and worked your way into coaching.
Yeah, yeah. So my first career, I was an art director. I was a graphic designer, and I uh, graduated top of my class at the School of Visual Arts. My first job was at Sony Music, designing CD covers. So I'm dating myself. Um,
Hey, I had cassettes. I'm so old. I had cassettes. I don't know how to rewind a cassette with a pencil, man. So you're preaching to the choir here, buddy.
I did a little of that too. I did a little of that too. But yeah, in many ways, it was like this dream job, right? You're 22 years old. You're design, I had a fancy office on Madison Avenue, overlooking, if I tilted my head just the right way and looked up against the wall, I could see Central Park from my office. So it was like this big deal. And I got there and I very quickly realized that I was really well equipped to make things pretty, beautiful, effective marketing, but I was really not prepared for navigating the complexities of working in a international company, the complexities of, when you're an art director, you have to produce the photo shoots. So you have the artist, their management, whoever shows up in their entourage that day, right? It could be their cousin, it could be their friend, it could be anybody. And record label, A&R, marketing, and then hair, makeup, stylist, props, locations. And it's like your job to get all those things coordinated and get all those people to play nice and agree in one and come together. And did I mention that I was 22 years old? So
Well, and
like
that's what creative people are known for, getting along with everyone and just going with the flow, right?
oh my God. Yeah, but you can't, but part of, you have to get agreement too. It's not just going with the flow, right? And I, very quickly started to go, oh shit, like, okay. And so it was like a duck above water, like a duck on water, right? Like above, I was graceful, but underneath, just freaking out. And I think I was doing an okay job. I don't know that I was like excelling, but I didn't get fired or anything like that. I was doing an okay job, but going to work every day just felt like scary. It felt like, man, any minute I'm gonna mess this up. Any minute, like, working with artists is like a whole beast too. Like they're divas. And anyway, after 4 years of doing that, I said, you know what? This is too much stress. This is too high pressure. I'm gonna go work somewhere else. I'm gonna go work at a smaller company. And so I still went to another high profile company with a small agency that we were doing theater posters. And so it was really fun, was doing marketing for Broadway shows. So I got to see my stuff plastered all over New York City and in the back of buses and in bus shelters and in New York Times. You could open it up and see my big ads. And, again, really exciting. But I was having that same feeling of going to work every day and feeling like, okay, any minute now, I'm gonna get fired. Any minute now, I'm gonna mess this up. Just anxiety and navigating some of these situations. And so if you can kind of guess what's next, I did that for a couple years and eventually said, okay, I'm gonna go work for myself.
Mm,
If I go work for myself, I don't have to deal with all this stuff, all these drama, all these bosses, all of it, right? So then I went to work for myself. And as I'm sure you can figure out, you take yourself wherever you go. You
that's right.
you know you think that by changing the circumstances you're going to you know avoid whatever it is you're trying to avoid, but you take yourself wherever you go. And so in my late 20s I started to really have a conversation. We were like, okay, what is this? Like, I have to figure this out. Like, I have to. And that's when I started to really invest in therapy, invest in personal development, and start my journey into figuring out what this thing was that just had me feeling not enough in every situation that I was in. And Joe, on paper, I was excelling.
Yeah.
I was working at all these prestigious places. My pedigree, my resume were great. My portfolio was great. I mean, as a designer, I never had to look for work. Every job that I interviewed for, I got right away, first shot. Hell, I didn't even apply for Sony. They called me, you know,
Really?
they called me. Like, I
Yeah.
graduated from college and I get this phone call and I was like, hey, we want you to come interview. I'm like, okay, great. First job, that's it. But I started to really look into like what was this, and then that's when I discovered coaching, and I was really lucky enough to I went through a curriculum that when you finish, one of the options is you can go back and give like pay it forward to somebody else, like mentor the next group and coach the next group. And man, that's when I was like, wait a minute, I could have a conversation with somebody and their life could change based on that conversation. I was like, all right, sign me up. Fuck this design stuff. Like, I'm in. I want to do this. Like, this is what I want to do every day. And the company, when I finished like mentoring that program, they offered me a job. They said, "Hey, why don't you come work for us part-time?" And I was still freelancing as a designer. I was literally coaching for fun just because I loved it. And I
Mm,
actually didn't even know that I could make a career of it. This was 2008, so the coaching industry looked very different back then. Um, and eventually one of my work coworkers there said, "Hey, I'm gonna go like start my own thing. I'm getting certified." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And by the time that company that I worked for, it was a great environment because 100 people were coming through the door every month. So I got to sharpen my skills very, very quickly. By the time
yep.
that I literally left and did my certification officially, I could have taught the class because I had gotten so much experience in those couple years that I was there. And I think I had a natural talent for it. I've always been very intuitive in that way. And that's when my journey started into coaching. And then I had to figure out the next part of that was figuring out a coaching business, which is a
Yeah.
whole other thing. We could do a whole other episode on that.
Well,
But yeah,
there's coaches for anything, right? So it's funny because
yeah,
when I talk about coaching, because we have a lot of folks who have coaching businesses on the podcast, and it's interesting. Do you know who Dean Hormozy is?
yeah,
Yeah. So I like his mentality and his approach to things. Now he's a bit
yeah.
intense. I'll give you that, but I'm a bit intense, so like it aligns really well with me. But I heard him talking today about the money that he spent on coaching and training over the years, and he said,
Hmm.
if I had taken the money that I spent on coaching and training and I had invested it in the top 10 S&P years, I wouldn't have made a fraction of the money that I've made for myself from the
Mm,
things I learned through all the training and investment I made in myself. And so I encourage people they've got to think about it differently instead of, hey, this is X, whatever X is. Let's just make up a number. Let's say it's 5,000 bucks.
yeah,
Instead of saying, hey, I'm spending 5,000 bucks, you got to think about it as investing $5,000 in yourself to be
yeah,
able to run your business or generate income or improve yourself exponentially for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And look, there's bad coaches out there too. I'm not saying that everyone's awesome at it. I'm not saying that everyone is worth what you pay them, but I think a lot of people are. And that's one of the things I love about our podcast is we have people from wide variety of backgrounds, a wide variety of experiences. Some of them have been uber successful in entertainment. Some of them have been uber successful in business. Some of them have been, at rock bottom and just literally lived in their car for a while and built lives for themselves.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is what we see over and over and over again. People that take action and people that invest in themselves and continue to improve themselves usually wind up in a pretty good spot. So
Yeah.
you got all these places you could coach. How did you decide? Well, first, where did you first start your focus on coaching, and how did you decide to do that? How'd you pick that?
Yeah, I actually want to respond to what you said,
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
and if I may, because you said something, what you just said was so good, and I wanna kind of really drill that in a bit. So I like to use the analogy of baking a cake, right? So in order to bake a cake, you have to have great ingredients, right? You have to have the ingredients and you have to have the tools. And so the ingredients of you, right? Your experience, what you bring to the table, the special sauce that you bring, the special way that you do things. And then there are the tools, right? This is like the microphone that I'm holding, the computer and the things that we are and the softwares that we use and the systems that we use to operate our business and all that stuff, right? What mostly we start to do, you know, is we focus on, okay, let me change the tools, right? Let me get new tools. Oh, that new program. Oh, that new AI software. Oh, this new fancy camera. Or oh, let me get more certifications. Let me work on the ingredients. I'll get more training and more training and more training. Here's the thing, the cake does not rise without the heat. The cake does not rise without the pressure of putting it in the oven, right? And so you can get all the fancy ingredients, organic, perfectly made, beautiful, all of that. You can get all the great tools, but until there's pressure, until there's something causing that chemical reaction, the cake doesn't rise, it doesn't happen. And so, what a lot of people try to do is they try to go through the game without raising the temperature on that,
Mm,
comfortable with what they know. What you're talking about is making that type of investment. Like, I remember the first investment that I made. I mean, I was hyperventilating on it, because it was like I had never dropped. And for me, it was a $10,000 program. And I had never dropped that kind of money. Like, and I was literally in a panic, going like, "Oh my God." But that's why I ended up doing it, because I realized, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, if money has this much power of me, if I'm literally here hyperventilating over an investment in myself, like, how am I ever going to have enough freedom to grow and accomplish what I want? So what you're talking about is a way for people to create that pressure. Because when you listen, all the information is probably out there already. All the information, like you got ChatGPT, all the stuff. But without the accountability and the at stakeness and putting something on the line, like investing money, there's no pressure in the game. And if there's no pressure in the game, you just don't elevate, right? And so for me, the first 5 years of my business was me trying to figure it out without the pressure in the game.
mm,
It was me stumbling and trying to figure it out. This was, you're talking about 2008, so it's not even like we didn't have ChatGPT, we didn't have the resources that we have now. YouTube was still brand new. So there wasn't, I didn't have what we have now. Like now it's like there's so many resources out there. And another thing you said is like it was really important to start taking action, because something that happened to me was when I started out as a life coach. And I was like, I'm gonna work on life coaching. And I started focusing on creative professionals because that's what I knew. But what happened was I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to talk about all this whiny stuff every day. I don't really want to like I just don't really want to talk about like, oh, I'm not inspired and blah blah blah. Like it was just got to a point. I really don't mean to like put anything down. But for me, it got to a point where I was like, come on, let's go. I want to get some shit done. Like that's like I want to
mm,
like move. Let's go. And so then I was like, you know what? No, I'm an empowerment coach. I'm not here to talk about like, are you, what are you up to? I'm gonna empower you. I'm gonna kick your ass. Let's get it done. That's my game. Um, and then, but people, and then what I realized, I'm like, oh, you know what? What I'm really talking about is leadership. At the end of the day, what I'm really talking about is how do you lead your life? How do you lead your business? How do you lead yourself through the things that scare you, the things that you're avoiding, the things that make you uncomfortable, the failures, the setbacks, all the crunchy stuff that happens along the way? How do you lead yourself through that?
Mm,
And so then something started to come together for me, then I really started to land. I'm like, oh no, I'm a leadership coach. I'm a leadership business coach. I work with entrepreneurs to help them bring leadership to their business, to help them lead their business so that their business does not lead them. And it took me about 5 years to figure that out, but it took 5 years of action, of me going at it, trial and error, figuring it out, testing, doing that work of failing for 5 years until I found the thing. And then when I found it, the clarity came, and that's when I was really able to start to get momentum. I mean, there were other things that I did as well, but that was a big part. And I think I wanted to mention that because it's really important that you do take action and that you figure it out, that you figure it out along the way, because you cannot it's like I can't teach you how to ride a bike theoretically. you
mm.
know we can only I could do a PowerPoint, I can do the training, I can do the books, I can do all the things, but until you get on that bike and figure out this thing and fall and then go, oh, course correct, you can't learn how to do that. And there's so many of these lessons in life, and it's particularly around business, that can't be learned. The you can't learn sales until you just get on the phone with a bunch of people and fuck up a bunch of conversations, and get a bunch of no's,
Totally.
right? You cannot avoid that. Like, there is no other way. Like, you can read the books and have the frameworks and have the script, but until you get there and you like learn how to breathe and don't freak out when they have an objection, and like those are things that can only be learned while you're on the court. And so it's like taking action, and it's so important. It's so important, you know.
Love that. I think you said that brilliantly. And yeah, I love everything you just said. I think it's 100% correct. And we see it over and over and over again on the successful people that come on the podcast, because I always say they're successful because of their failures, not in spite of their failures. It's people disassociate those things like they
100%.
overcame, it's like they overcame the stuff. No, it was that stuff that made you who you are. And you got to embrace the suck. There's a former Navy SEAL that wrote a book called Embrace the Suck.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I've heard
you
the
know,
title, yeah.
yeah, and if you don't learn to fall in love with the grind, you're never going to get to where you want to go, because it's not always going to be fun and it's not always going to be successful. And you have to have the mental fortitude and the perseverance to keep going when other people quit. That's why most people fail, is because they quit too soon.
Yeah. They quit too soon, and then they personalize the failures.
Mm,
Like, there's a way that our ego collapses our identity, our value with our results. And so when we have these setbacks, you start to make it mean something about you. And what you hear, um, a few months ago, I had a guest on the show. He's an investor. Forgive me, I forget his name. Really cool guy. And his business model is he teaches people how to like work to start in the stock market. And one of the things that I got from his conversation is like, for him, it's like playing a video game. Like, he's literally just looking at the information and the data and making decisions based, like, there was no emotion, no
yep.
component to it, right? And I was like, that's such a valuable lesson, because anyone who's successful has that ability to separate their results and their from them. They fail and they learn what they need to learn, and then they move on, right? And then they move on, and what's the next breakthrough? What's the next action to take? And what gets in our way time and time again is that we start to judge ourselves. We start to judge our experience. We start to judge our results, and that's what really gets in our way. Not the failure itself. The failure is valuable, so valuable. Those 5 years of failing taught me a lot, and
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons I'm good at what I do.
Yep.
It's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about working with entrepreneurs because I know what sucking for 5 years is like. And I'm laughing, but when you're going through that, it's terrifying. It's lonely as I love that I can just curse on your show, by the way.
Yeah, fire away, man.
I
That's how
typically
we
don't
roll.
get to do it, so I'm just like, you said we can do it, so I'm just dropping it all. So that is what gets in our way time and time again. It's like we judge our results, we judge ourselves, and all those are valuable. And those 5 years, I would never give them up because the ability that I have to get in the psyche, the ability that I have to create a safe space for people, the ability that I have to understand the pain points and understand what people are going through, it all was birthed from that struggle, and I'm super grateful for it. I mean, at the time I would have, never signed up for that, but now looking back, so grateful for it. And if you look for yourself, it's true for you. Any major breakthrough you had, any major transformation, any major like aha moment that you had in your life came from some struggle. It came from some struggle. Like I'm willing to bet money on that. Like we don't learn any other way.
100%. Now, see, I was fortunate. From the time I was 3 until the time I met my wife, I was going to be a professional baseball player. That from the time I was 3 years old, I was telling people I was going
Really,
to play professional baseball. Yeah, I knew what I wanted to do,
I
and it
that
wasn't
that that
because of the
kind of
money.
clarity.
Yeah, it wasn't because of the money. It wasn't because of the fame. It was because I loved playing baseball. Like I loved competing. Um, so as you move up, I was fortunate that I had some physical gifts and that I worked hard to maximize those physical gifts. So like in high school, I was just physically better than most guys that I played against because I was, a big, strong guy, and I knew I was going to go to college and play baseball. But when you get to college, everybody's like you. There is no more physical advantage at that level. There are a couple of guys that probably are outliers, sure, but most everybody's a big, strong guy and can throw the ball really hard or hit the ball really far, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was a pitcher, and baseball is a game filled with failure. And there's no mistaking when the failure happens. So, like, if I throw a pitch and someone hits a 450-foot home run, there's no mistaking what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
I threw it, he hit it, he's rounding the bases. There's 3,000 people screaming at you. The umpire tosses you a ball, and you've got about 30 seconds. You get to regroup for about 30 seconds, and then it's time to go get the next guy. And if you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to do that, that's fine. There's 10 other pitchers on the team. They'll come take you out and put another guy in that will do it. So you don't get to feel sorry for yourself. You don't get to cry in your beer. You don't get to throw a tantrum. You have to learn from your mistake. You have to compose yourself and you have to go again. Now, that's just a game. That stuff really didn't matter. However, those lessons translated directly into my adult life. It made me a better
Yeah.
business person, made me a better father, made me a better husband because when shit goes wrong, I just deal with it. It's not fun. I don't like it any more than the next person does. But because of all those years of having to compose yourself very quickly, I'm able to do it in a lot of different settings. And so it was just what I loved doing. It just happened to be very effective training for being a decent adult,
Yeah.
So
Do, Question for you. Do you think that you like that ability to just get back into the next pitch and put it aside and, was that something you developed while you were playing, or do you think that's something that you came to the game with?
no, I definitely developed it. Yeah. So I know it's hard to tell by looking at me, but I'm super Irish. And so I have the Irish temper flowing through my veins all the time. So
Mm,
when things went wrong, when I was young, I would throw tantrums, I would bitch, I would complain, I would yell at umpires, I would yell at teammates. And it was actually my dad who was my coach. And he grabbed me by the arm one time and said, "Hey," because I just got done yelling at an umpire and I got back to the dugout
Hmm.
and he grabbed me. He said, "Hey, do you think that guy's going to give you any calls the rest of the game after what you just did?" And that was like an epiphany for me. Like, no, he's right. Like, if my goal here is to actually be successful, I'm not doing a very good job of it. And so
Yeah.
I've got to learn to control my reactions to those situations. And so from that point forward, I made a concerted effort to control my reaction to things and learn to
Yeah.
compartmentalize what just happened and apply those learnings to whatever happened going forward. Now, I was fortunate to do it like in a play setting. You know, you were doing it with real real money at stake and your business at stake and your livelihood at stake. So that's a much different crucible than the one learned this stuff in.
Yeah. And I'm glad I had a feeling that was going to be your answer. And it's the reason I asked you the question because I wanted people to see, have a real life example of what that looks like. And we're doing that in all aspects of life at all time, as you're pointing out, whether it's you're playing a game, whether you're in your business. But if, there's just so many lessons that come from getting on the court, getting on the field, starting the business and then yeah, shit's gonna go wrong. You're gonna have tantrums, you're gonna have failures, you're gonna get no's, you're gonna get rejected, you're gonna have technology breakdown. That you're my my favorite when I'm coaching a client. This always happens to everyone at one point. You like you're leading a webinar or training a podcast and you forget to hit record. And it's
It's
like,
usually the best
yep.
one that you
I'm,
do
I'm
when you
like,
forget
I'm
to hit
like,
record
yep.
too.
I'm like, yep, that happens. That happens to everyone. And then it happens that time, and you usually don't have to deal with it again because then you're like post-its and all this.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
embracing those moments, because they're beautiful really at the end of the day. They grow us, they develop us, they humanize us. Like they really are beautiful, but we kick and scream, man. We kick and scream and we don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like that's normal. Like I'm not saying it's fun. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
easy. I'm saying it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's like the tax you pay for success is the way I think about it.
Yeah. And the other thing that I'm present to right now is that it even when you master it, there's like levels, right? Like I always talk about the problems that you have trying to reach 100K are very different than trying to reach 250, are very different than trying to reach 500K. They're very different than trying to hit your six figures, right? Like there's just the 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 problems change. You're dealing with different things. And it's true for any kind of problem, not even just business. You could hold your temper in certain situations, but then other ones, or all of a sudden a new situation pops up and that thing that you had learned how to do now has to be done again, and so it humbles us because we have to really be in the mindset that we're always learning and that we never arrived anywhere, right? Which is
Mm.
like, and for me, it's like, I'm the one that teaches everybody to do this. Like, no, I'm still learning. I don't know shit. I don't know shit. And it's like you want to be in a place of I don't know shit because then you're actually like open and looking and curious and trying. The moment that you're like, I don't know, the moment that you think you know, well, now you're not exploring, now you're not open anymore. Now you're not, digging for what's possible. Now you're just trying to be right. Right? Now
Yep.
you're just trying to prove your point. Now you're just trying to save your ego and kiss your boo-boos when you feel hurt. And but when you're like just I don't know shit, you're like, okay, I learned that. I learned that. Won't do that again.
It's very funny because it's one of my favorite sayings about myself. It's too bad you didn't know me when I was 20 because I was so smart when I was 20, I knew everything. And
Yeah,
you
yeah,
didn't even
yeah,
have to
yeah.
ask me. I would just tell you I knew everything. It turns out I've gotten a lot dumber the older I've gotten because I don't know shit. Like there's
Yeah.
tons of people that know so much more than me. And you know what the best part is? They'll download all of this information to you, usually for free, if you ask a couple of questions and shut your fucking mouth. And that's what
Yeah.
I love about the podcast is I get so much value out of it personally while
Yeah,
exposing our
yeah.
audience such a wide range of people and thought processes and approaches. And I'm convinced there's not one way that works for anybody or everybody. Your own way will work for you, but it's up to you to take control of that and find your way. And why would you not want exposure to all of these different people who have all of these different experiences that they're willing to share with you to
Yeah.
help you build the life that you want, you know?
That's one of my beefs now with the coaching industry. It's like I feel like the marketing, has gotten so like I'm gonna save your life. I'm like, cut that out, like, or I have all the answers to help you and with the unit. I'm like, okay, let's everybody relax. Like, everybody, everybody, calm down. I know we want some sales, but let's not tell the people things. It's like I'm wary of. I look for people who, and with one of the things that this one of the reasons I wanted to get on this podcast with you and have this conversation with you because there's a way that you operate that's not like I have all the answers and
Hmm.
like I'm the guru here. And those are the types of people personally that I want to hang out with because then it's like we're walking each other home. It's like we're all learning from each other. We're it's it, and I think that's the real truth authentically. Anybody else who's telling you like, like I have it all figured out. And I know now with Instagram and social media, there's so much pressure to kind of put that image forward, but it's like it's just false. I don't think it's true. And I would be wary of anyone who tries to position that they have all the answers, because they're gonna have a blind spot somewhere and they're probably trying to sell you a bill of goods. That's
Yes. Yes, I
that's my
totally
PSA. That's my PSA. I'm getting off my soapbox now and I'm not.
I totally agree with you. I agree with everything you just said. I think it's 100% correct. Appreciate the kind words about us and how we operate. It's genuine. Like I've learned through a series of, people always ask, how have you been? How do you be successful? And I'm like, you got to fail your way to the top. That's how I did it. I
Yeah.
failed my way to I've been in the grocery industry for 30 years. And so I fucked up anything you can think of in the grocery industry 7 ways a Sunday. And I learned a ton about it. And that's how I got good at the grocery industry. And, you had talked similarly about the coaching industry. That was actually my next question was, so I've got so many questions, but let's start with this one. You have no experience as a business owner. You've got business experience, but not as your own boss, making all the decisions, setting up the business, going and finding clients, putting together the programs. How did you approach that when you first started? And you've already said, for 5 years, it sucked and it didn't go real well.
Yeah.
How did you react when you first started and went, well, fuck, this isn't working?
Um, so a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of avoiding, if I'm being really honest.
Mm.
I have friends and family come to me, "Hey, are you still doing that coaching thing?" I'm like, "Yes, but that's how they even didn't know because I wasn't even talking about it. My whole thing is I was waiting for Oprah to discover me. That was my marketing strategy. I was waiting for Oprah to discover me. Now, mind you, what was I doing for Oprah to discover me? Not a damn thing. But I was waiting. When Oprah discovered me, that phone rang. I was gonna be off to the races. I'm still waiting for Oprah to call. But in the meantime, after a little while, I started to like look out and see, well, how can I get some help? How can I honestly didn't even know that there was other people out there that could help you. Like I didn't, that's how even I didn't know. And again, I'm saying that now in 2025, but I just want to reiterate the world was very different, during the early 2010s when I was like, doing this. There wasn't as many resources. And so eventually, I discovered speaking
Mm.
and I had started to, I would do my own workshops. I would do little things, but I never had any strategy around speaking. And so I was able to find my first like real business coach, and they taught me how to profit from speaking and how to host events and how to sell from the front of the room and sell my programs from the front of the room. And that was the game changer for me because speaking is like probably one of my my zone of genius. Like I'm really great on a stage. I love being on a stage. And I was really effective at it. And so I was able to, but check this out. My coach at the time, for whatever, this wasn't even part of the program, but they clearly saw something in me, and they were trying to, like, make cause results through me, so the coach called me one day and she's like, okay, um, are you ready to do the work? I'm like, yeah. You're gonna be 100% coachable and you're gonna do whatever I say. I'm like, yeah, I'll do whatever you say. No, like, no shit, like, no questions asked. I'm like, yep. She goes, okay, put 10 people in a room and call me back. I was like, okay. Picked a day, started calling people, say, hey, I have a workshop on October 19th. I don't know what the day was. Can you come? Hey, I have a workshop coming October 19th. Can you come? Hey, I have a and so I put 10 people in a room. I call her back and I'm like, okay, I have 10 people in a room. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was inviting them to. There was no topic, there was no nothing. I literally just put 10 people in a room. And then she goes, okay, so who's in the room and what are they dealing with? I was like, okay, they're entrepreneurs, they're dealing with growing their business, they're struggling finding leads, blah, blah, blah. Okay, create a signature talk around that. Okay. I went, and that's how my signature talk got birth. I literally, who was in the room, and I created my keynote around that, and then I went and I did the thing, right, and then I ended up with like 25 people in the room, and it was like, oh shit, I can do this. Like I can do this, right? And so then that's how I started to do it. But that like, are you gonna be coachable? Are you gonna do it? Like because you don't even know what you're inviting them to. Like you literally don't even know. It's like I didn't have any graphics. I didn't have a sign up link. I didn't have nothing. I just was like getting these. It's like, so it was hilarious. But it was just a lesson again of getting in action, getting in action. And so speaking was the thing that really like kind of changed everything for me after being in making that investment, which that I couldn't afford, and going through that program. I went through that first, I think up until that point, if I'm gonna really expose myself. I think up until that point, the most that I had made in a year was about 35K.
Mm,
And after like a year of starting to implement speaking, I had crossed six figures,
wow. So it just made a
and
huge
it
impact on your,
made all the difference. It
yeah.
made all the difference. It was like the thing that really um had me go in front of people, and start, and it's, for me, it's the best way to get leads, because you meet somebody, you make an emotional connection, you can't replicate the connection, somebody hanging out with you for a couple hours, 45 minutes on a stage. It's just really, I also think events are like, if events cause that, there's something about the energy of events and the dynamic, you know component that comes with them that is also really powerful. Like I think events can be life changing, and I treat them that way. I treat them, you know. So yeah, that's
Did
that's
you
how I got things
know,
going.
yeah, did you know before that, like, did public speaking bother you, or is that an environment you were already comfortable in
Oh,
at this point?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Dude. Oh my God, dude. No, 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 no. So I would break out into, so I've always been a sweater, like
Me too, by the way.
I always been somebody who sweats a lot. But in front of the room with all eyes on me, and I'm like, I would start to sweat and no hair. So the sweat would just start dripping down my head. It
You look
was
like
so bad.
Shaq at the free throw line.
100%. People would come to me and like people would go to the bathroom and get towels and come to me and walk up on stage and give them to me because they were so uncomfortable for me. It was like sometimes there were puddles on the floor that I had to be careful that I literally would slide on because there was so much sweat. I would have to, one of the other lessons that I learned along the way was, and it came from this thing that I'm going to share. So when I first started coaching, I was, I was trying to do it based on what I thought it was supposed to be.
Mm,
And so I'll give you an example. Like, again, we're talking about 2008. The industry was very different. At that time, people who were coaching were like much more older than me and had like MBAs and fancy degrees. Those were the people that were doing leadership training and doing, sort of coaching at that level. So I started wearing suits and I started to grow my facial hair and grow my beard so that I could look older and more respectable. And
sure.
I took my earrings off and I started to like, wear these business suits, which again, so now I'm on stage wearing a business suit, which is not really me, sweating my ass off underneath the business suit. Can't take it off because now I got sweat stains underneath this. It's just a whole mess, right? Um, so eventually I did this thing. I started figuring this out. Okay, I don't even know how I figured this out, but I went up on a stage and I said, okay, hi, my name is Gary Montalvo. I'm really nervous right now and I'm going to start sweating. And I have this towel here to wipe my sweat off. So I'm going to be like Luther Vandross right now. And I'm going to, be wiping this off. Two things happened. One, I was expecting it, which is why I did it. The moment I said that, I was free. The moment
Yeah.
I said, "Hey guys, I'm nervous right now," I was free. I was no longer because what I would sit there, Joe, I would sit there for an hour, stand, not sit, stand. I would stand there for however long I was there, pretending that I wasn't sweating my balls off,
Mm,
pretending that this is normal.
yeah.
So now like all my energy is focused on like trying not to slip on the floor, trying to keep the sweat out of my eyes, trying to like look normal, like nothing's wrong. I wasn't present. I wasn't there, I was like in my head the whole time. So the moment that I did that, I was free. Now I could be present. Now I wasn't trying to hide this thing. I included it. I was like, okay, I got a towel. I'm gonna sweat. And I would go. I would go get my towel, go, okay, and I would keep doing my thing. The second major lesson that happened that I discovered as a surprise and has become one of my guiding principles. That moment of vulnerability had the room. I immediately had the audience. They immediately connected with me. They immediately were, oh, Gary, no, give Gary a hand. Like everybody all
Mm,
of a sudden started rooting for me because who could not relate to that,
yep.
right? Who could not relate I mean, public speaking is the number one fear. Like people would rather die before they speak in public. Like that's what, it's really a big thing for a lot of people. And so the moment that I acknowledged that, they actually were able to see themselves in me and connect and say, hey, this guy's scared and he's still showing up and he's still doing it. Now I had to back it up with the content and still deliver an experience, right? Like that's I still had credibility because I was able to still do that. And so since that moment on, I have included that and I try to be as authentic as possible. I share very openly about whatever it is, and that's my biggest way of teaching people. My biggest way of teaching people is opening the door to my stuff and giving people access so that they know they're not alone. Because mostly we think we are. We think that we're the only ones. We think that we think that this thing that you're scared of, or this thing that you're avoiding, or this like you think that you're the only one, and you're not even close. Um,
Yeah, it's a very common theme. And so sometimes like I love our conversation. And again, we have all sorts of people that have had all sorts of different experiences in life. And sometimes it's a pretty heavy subject. We've had a couple people on that were the victims of sexual abuse when they were young. We've had
yeah,
people that have lost children. And one of the things that is important to them to continue to tell those stories is to make sure other people know that you're not the only one who's going through this. There's
yeah,
other people that can empathize with you, that can relate to where you're at. And it takes, like you talked about, it takes the pressure off. It's very freeing. You don't have to feel ashamed or embarrassed or disgusted or whatever the feelings are that are manifesting inside you. They don't need to be that way because it's not just you. You're not unique in whatever you think your
in
problems
that
are.
way.
Yeah, exactly. I love the sweat story because I also am a sweat guy. And I used to play pickup basketball, and I would bring four shirts, and
Uh-huh.
I would call it a courtesy shirt. So if you were playing
Yeah, yeah,
defense
yeah,
on
yeah.
me and I was too gross and slimy and you didn't want to touch me, you could just ask for a courtesy shirt, and I would go change into a different shirt. And so then you didn't have to get all slimed up when we were down low fighting for a rebound. And
Yeah.
so nobody thought, they were like, everyone would be like, hey, Canfield, time for a courtesy shirt. Got it. Be right back. No problem. And nobody cared after
With
that. But before then, it was nasty, man. Like, I don't want to
yeah.
be, nobody wants to deal with that.
Yeah, if you include it, it's that's the lesson included. We all have stuff, you know. Some of us are short, some of us have, weird voices, some of us have include it. If you include it and normalize it, it just becomes, part of the furniture in the room. It's like it's not even a thing. And the more you do that, the more you give permission to for others to do that. It just gives it a when you what you were talking about really is like those moments of tragedy that people go through. What it what it does is it gives it a purpose.
Mm,
It gives it a purpose when you start to teach from it, when you start to share the medicine that comes from those experiences. It gives it a purpose. It gives it a meaning, and instead of like an identity that you start to put yourself in a box and relive the experience and relive the pain and relive those moments. It's like you take these things that happen to you that suck, by like no stretch of the imagination,
mm.
but it gives other people hope and it gives other people purpose. So yeah.
Yeah. Totally agree. And I mean, so you're essentially coaching leadership and you're showing leadership demonstrably in front of your audience. So it gives you a lot of gravitas as a coach, as a speaker, as an authority. And I get it. I'm not saying like going back to our, I know you don't know everything. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
However, you do know more than most people on the subject, right? And there's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
wrong with saying I know more than most people about this because I got a lot of experience with it. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean, and I usually preface my statements with, "Look, I don't know everything. I didn't stay at Holiday Inn Express last night. You should take this for what it's worth." But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time, and here's what I have learned from my experiences. You could
Yeah.
take it, you could leave it. That's up to you what you do with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That's also part of leadership too, though, owning that,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know,
Totally
owning
agree
that.
with you. So most of your clients are entrepreneurs then, is that right? Most of your coaching clients?
Yeah, so I have kind of two worlds. I have the entrepreneurs, and then I have like the small business companies that are now at a point where the founder can only do it by himself for so long, and
Yeah.
they're developing leadership, but don't necessarily know how to do that, or have created a culture where they're doing everything and now other people are like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? And we have to kind of start shifting that and creating ownership and a different culture of ownership. So I work with those two groups are kind of my sweet spot. Yeah.
Nice. And so I know you said that speaking is a great way to find clients. Is that your main source of finding clients, or how do you find folks to work with? Do they seek you out? Do you advertise? Do you get them from seminars? How does that work?
Yeah, so networking and speaking, I'll be really honest. I've tried to do the online thing. I have not figured out how to do that very successfully. I'm such an in-person guy, and I love being like, if I'm in a room or if I'm on a stage, I always walk out with business, like always.
Mm,
So I try to make that be the main thing that I do frequently. Um, but I do the networking, I do the other stuff. I don't get a lot online, and I don't get a lot in any other way, to be honest. It's really just getting to know people out there, forming relationships. I'm doing these types of conversations with people that I like to see if anybody out there finds me.
mm,
But this is even new, I'll be honest with you. Like I've been doing I mean, I've had my podcast for about a year and a half.
yep.
And I don't know that I've gotten business from it. I don't think so. I do it as a it's like I do it because I love it. I do it because I think I'm good at it. I think that I like the process of putting the show together. It's a lot of work, as you know. It's a lot of work. Like, people don't realize how much work goes into putting these things together. And the resources, I don't know how people try to do this on their own without like a team or without. I'm like, oh,
I
I
don't
can make
either.
my own podcast. I'm like, what? I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. And not because I can't, it's just like just no time. But yeah, it's mostly through speaking or through networking for me. I probably should be doing other things, but haven't gotten there yet.
What's the biggest hang up you see, like the most common hang up you see with entrepreneurs? Where do you spend most time coaching them?
Just one answer.
No, go ahead. Answer. You got the floor.
Okay. So there's a way that people think that that thing that they're dealing with is unique to them. And so what starts to happen is you now start to focus your attention on judging that thing instead of finding a solution for it.
Mm,
So you think, oh, sales calls. Sales calls is one of the things that people that back it just fucks up most entrepreneurs. Like, if unless you have a sales experience, it's like this is the thing that always turns people upside down, especially when you're heart centered, when most of my people are. It there's a way that it starts to occur inauthentic for them, especially when like what they do is like something they love and they would literally do it for free if they could, right? It's like I have to charge for that. Um, so it always becomes like a thing where, but here's the thing. They think that they're the only person on the planet that's dealing with insecurity around sales. And I'm literally like, no. Like, literally, if nobody had issues with learning how to sell, I would not have a job. Like, it's literally half of what I spend my time doing. How to bring authenticity to the process, how to bring leadership to the process. How do you have a sales conversation be a self-expression of the difference in your world? Right? When you're having a sales conversation, something, well, you're gonna feel like
mm,
manipulative. It's gonna feel like you're just listening. It's very there are specific people that but for most of us that give a shit, that's gonna feel icky. And so, oh, me, that I'm not alone. Every safety that I need. Well, now you're asking different questions, right? That doesn't open up anything. It doesn't move. Opposite. It actually locks you in to a thought loop that reinforces this idea there's some nonsense,
mm.
which I utterly hate.
Too.
I mean, there's pushing through something. I'm not saying I say, hey guys, do the whole going this thing. Like, one of the Hey, Joe, when it's time to talk about money right now, here so that I don't forget, right? And just say that we're alone, gonna bring you the, how can you make this authentic for you? How can
Yeah.
you make this feel like of like versus this is how I have to do it. Oh my God, I have to get the sale and all this pressure. And so yeah, so there's just a way that I think at the end of the day, that's the big hack. You get stuck in these loops and these stories that you think there's something wrong with you, and really you're just you're and
Unique.
it's
You think it's
yeah.
only you.
Yeah. There are times I don't know, like where I'm literally coaching somebody under, like it comes in like energetically, something happens. I don't know what it is, but it's so unique in that way. Okay? We're unique in ways, but not in that. The go-getters, the right, that seemingly don't fear. They're just like for it. First of all, profiles those, and they have all the problems. They they usually suck at like at the relationship, and some scare them. I don't know what it is. It may not be going on a sales conference, but something does scare them. We all have. It just shows up different, but it's that like, oh, then with me,
Yeah.
it
Yep.
may,
Totally.
it may be your thing, but
Yep. Everyone, I always say that everyone's got problems. Jeff Bezos, Gates, just
problems.
different. Yeah. Different problems than you or me, but make no
Yeah,
mistake, you guys
big
are divorced. I've
problems.
been married to my wife for 33 years. If you
And
wanted to talk
his divorce cost him how?
exactly, particularly fair either, by the way. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, and it's not, I'm not trying to, man, the point is
yeah, yeah,
no to the, because I actually take quite a bit. And the advice I give is you have to learn to sell without taking the used car window salesman approach. Not only are you going to fail miserably, you are going to be miserable while you do it because you know it's this, you know it's not how you want to be, you don't feel a brief period in the food service industry public, and those people don't try to sell them more lettuce, help from you.
brilliant,
Creates a collaborative relationship. It
brilliant.
shows that you're listening to them. It shows that you're problem solving with them. If you go to them and they say, this is the segment of my customer base that I want to increase, that I want to target, you help them with ideas for that. They're naturally going to buy more products in those areas from you, and your business with them is going to increase. You're selling. You're just not acting like a salesman. That's the one of the worst
Yeah,
things that you can do. And you talked about it previously. Learn to hear the word no, because you're going to get told no a lot. That's how it works. And if you want to be compensated at an outsized rate to your actual skills, being a salesperson is by far the best way to do that. So let's say you have a high school degree, you have no other specific training, but you learn how to sell, you can easily make a six-figure salary doing that. And that's not true in most professions, but it is in sales because
Yeah.
so many people suck at it and so many people are afraid of it that they're willing to compensate other people very handsomely to do it. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that that's what you talk about a lot with your
It
entrepreneurs.
and it makes such a difference when you start your business if you have that skill set. It really is because it really is the place where most people get hung up because they have listen, most of us have people pleasing. Most of us have, some type of survival based on agreement in relationship, right? Like that's how we feel safe as a kid. If we're like, okay, well, if you like me, if we're friends, you're not going to, make me feel bad. You're not gonna
Mm,
bully me, all, whatever it is, right? So when we start selling, anything that you feel like you're gonna get a no starts to threaten your ego. It
yeah.
starts to feel like, oh no, you're not gonna be my friend anymore. And the biggest thing you could, when you're providing value, like what you're talking about, Joe, it's like they might say no, but the relationship is still intact.
Yep.
You're still gonna have a relationship with that person. And they might be no, but because you were creating value for them and because you were a service for them, they're gonna remember that. And they're gonna refer you to somebody else, or they're gonna call you later when they actually do need that more lettuce, and
Yeah.
that's more valuable than you trying to get that sale in that moment. That's another way people go wrong. They're trying to get the sale right there. It's like you can't sacrifice the relationship for the sale. It's like it's the relationship will pay with dividends, if you do it right. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's
it's
so funny. You're right. The word no, I actually try to get people to say no early in a conversation. So, like, I'll ask, hey, do you have a few minutes or you're right in the middle of something right now? I don't say, can you talk? Because
uh-huh.
you're kind of putting someone on the spot. I'll say, hey, did I catch you at a good time or are you right in the middle of something? And if they say, yeah, I'm right in the middle of something, they'll always, and I mean always, offer an alternative time. Can I call you in 10 minutes? Can you call me tomorrow at 10? They actually feel bad about saying, no, I'm right in the middle of something. Let
Uh-huh.
me set something up with you later. Or you get the word no. No, I'm good. What do you got? And then you got full engagement from them for the conversation. And just that little pivot, just that little change in how you word things or how you ask the question makes all the difference
Mhm.
in the world. And they don't feel like they're under pressure. They don't feel like you're selling them. They don't feel like you're coming out with your palm out looking for money. It's a
Yeah.
conversation and they're more than willing to engage in it most of the time.
Yeah. Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
So, on your podcast, you have, I'm assuming it's entrepreneurs on because your podcast is called The Business
The
Game, right?
ownership game. The
The ownership
ownership
game.
game.
I'm sorry. Yes. The ownership game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, no. I end up having a lot of entrepreneurs, but it's not exclusive to entrepreneurs. My main goal with the podcast is to showcase people who can display in some way, shape, or form getting an ownership of life. Whether it's getting an ownership, I've had people who've had to get an ownership of advocating for their health,
Yep.
when the medical system has let them down. I've had people who've had to get an ownership of, changing careers and starting businesses and ending marriages and, all of it. Ownership for me is the first distinction that allows you to take any action until you're willing to get an ownership of your experience, of your interpretations, of the possibilities that are in front of you. You're just operating in reaction to life.
Mm.
You're just kind of waiting to see what life throws at you and you'll respond. And mostly that's how we live our lives, especially, in this day and age when we're all like plugged into these things and it's like the first thing we see. And, you just saw a picture of my partner. Until, it's the first thing that we pick up in the morning and we're just like, oh, it's like, oh, what crazy thing happened today, um, and so ownership is the thing that it's the first distinction for you to be able to access your leadership. So I just try to tell really interesting stories. I try to have really interesting people. I try to avoid, I'm sure you have a lot of your host as well. So you get a lot of people knocking on your door who are just like trying to sell their book or trying to, sell their service. Or actually, my favorite guests to have on the show are other podcast hosts because
Mm.
they come with like a reverence for the process, and they come with like an honoring of the space that I find that people that don't host our podcast, they don't always get. It's like, you're here to take something, you're not here to give something.
Yeah, we actually
uh
just reject we just reject those kind of like I have
yeah,
no problem asking and pushing products or books or services that make sense.
yeah, yeah,
And it has to be an organic part of a genuine
yeah,
conversation. And if you're not
yeah,
willing to have the genuine conversation, I don't want to promote you anyways because you very well could be selling snake oil and I don't want to participate in that. It's not
yeah.
what we're about.
Yeah, and I feel similar. We're not similar. I feel exactly the same way. So I try to have so even if people come, like, again, if you want to come share whatever it is that you're selling, I don't have a problem with that either. But I want to know your story. I want to
Yep.
know what got you here. I want to know I want to see the messy stuff that got you here, because that's what we
Totally.
learn. I'm like,
That's where the value is. Yeah.
yeah, you gotta open up the closet. You gotta show me all the messy stuff. You gotta, let's have the real talk. I'm happy to end with the polish, but we're gonna go in there. Um, and I just feel like that's what gives people, because I want people to go, oh, I could do that, or
Mm.
oh, I see myself in that. So yeah, so the show is not exclusive to entrepreneurism, but it ends up we cover the topic a lot, and obviously a lot of the people that follow me are entrepreneurs, so it's in the water. But entrepreneurism is like the biggest personal development you're ever gonna get in life. So it's really like that's really the I think the main focus of it is personal development.
Yeah, well, I love that too. And the thing about it is like entrepreneurship is not for everybody because like you talked about and like you found out, um, there is a lot that goes into owning a business. And so even though you get to call all the shots, it also means you're responsible for absolutely everything. And I don't think people understand the magnitude of that until it's all on their shoulders. And so
Yeah,
if you want an accounting system, that's up to you. If you want to put together a marketing program, that's up to you. Even if you outsource it, you have to interview all the people, you have to participate in the brainstorming sessions, you have to prove all the like it. There is no hands-off part of entrepreneurship, and that's not for everybody. And it's not a value judgment. You're not a better person or a worse person if you do or don't want to be an entrepreneur. But I think it's really important to go into it with eyes wide open because
yeah.
it is a big bite to chew off, swallow, and digest. And it's just not for everybody. It's just not. It can be really, really hard. And there's nothing wrong if you don't want to do it, you know?
Yeah, you're gonna work more hours and have like you're gonna take your work home every day. But again, but I mean, personally, I love it. I love what I
Yep.
do. There are days where it's like, for sure. But it's like I get to do what I love, and I get to, have the impact that I have. But you're 100% right. It's not for everyone, and I don't mean that as in like not everybody can do this. Like,
Yep.
because I've been asked a question from that perspective, and the coach in me says, well, no, everybody can do this. They might need to learn other things. They might need to push through. They might need to develop things. They might need to, develop other skills in order to be able to do it. But I do think that everybody can get to a point to do it. But the choice of doing it, it's what you have to be up for, right? Because there are probably easier ways to make money, than I
Totally.
mean, the earning potential in theory is like, unlimited, right? But, when you have a 9 to 5, there's always like you have to ask your boss for a raise type of thing. But if you don't, if you have a bad week, you're still gonna get paid. If and in the pressure that you're talking about, it that when you start to have a team, right? And then that's like, okay, no, I gotta, yeah. Not only do I have to like make, like, because you can kind of skip on your paycheck at, when you're like, but when you have to pay your team and make sure that they have what they need as
Mhm.
a family, is like you're like, okay, I can't mess this up. I really gotta make this happen.
Yeah, right. Yes, it's all on you. So, but
Yeah.
I want to go back to the ownership conversation
Yeah.
because the ownership is about improving your life in whatever area you think you need to focus on or you want to focus on, right? So it could be health, it could be career, it could be relationships, it could be a lot of things, but those things don't change unless you take ownership of them. And
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how you coach people to change that mindset because that's the first place it has to change if you're going to be successful, right? You got to change how you think about it if it's going to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, because if you think about how we try to solve problems, the way that we try to navigate life is by changing the circumstances or waiting for the circumstances to change.
Mm.
But those suckers are like up first thing in the morning, staring at you when you wake up in your bed. They're like, "Hello, you ready? You ready to go for the day?" Like they like they're there, right? And the moment you like, it's like whack-a-mole. The more you get one down or two, three pop up. It's like circumstances do not change. It's excuse me, they change, but they don't ever go away. The idea of the perfect circumstances is just a myth. And so when you operate that way, you got to think about what's happening. You're actually like, first of all, you're training yourself to be someone who can't really respond to life unless the right circumstances are there.
Yeah.
And you're also training yourself to be the to not take action until the right circumstances show up. And so you can only live your life in reaction that way. You can only live your life reacting to life that way. And so when you go into business or when you just, heck, being a parent, being just every day, like life is just gonna life. So when you're operating, creating life in reaction, it just creates a very small game for you. It puts you in a box and it creates a very small game. So, the first thing is really awareness of that. And what I try to really go into is what's the impact? Because the moment that we start to get the impact, we will start to do something about it. The human beings, we have this amazing magical gift of numbing ourselves and ignoring the impact. And so
That's
we can pretend and we can just like, oh, this isn't a problem. It's not a problem if I keep eating cake at night every night. That's not really a problem, right? Like, oh, I've gained 10 pounds. That's not really a problem. And, we just like have this way of like that we just like keep pushing things off to the side. Um, so when you start to really tell the truth about the impact, and one of the impacts, like, hey, what's the experience of yourself when you're avoiding something? What's the experience of life when you're walking around avoiding something? What's the
yeah.
impact? What's the impact that that has on you? What's the impact that it has on your family? What's the impact that it has? I do that with sales. What's the impact of you avoiding sales calls? Well, I feel small. I feel like I can't, I feel like I'm a failure. I feel like, like I don't have power. What's the impact, in your business? Well, then I'm not really leading my business. Like like, I feel like a fraud, like the whole imposter syndrome. This is where like the root of that is, right? Because you are taking actions that are not in alignment with what you're being called to do. And so now there starts to be this disconnection between the things that you're doing and who you're pretending to be. And that's why you feel like an imposter. So awareness is the first step, developing the awareness and getting present to the impact that you operating this way, and also understanding that it's a choice, right? Understanding that it's a choice,
Totally. I couldn't agree with you more.
yeah,
Yes.
giving people that distinction. When people really start to understand it's a choice, and we lie to ourselves and we go, no, I was busy, I couldn't. And I'm like, okay, here's my question that I always like to break this down. I said, okay, let me ask you a question. If you had $1 million to find the 30 minutes to do your two follow-up calls for the day, would you have done something different? And they're like, oh shit, yeah, I would have done something different. I would have figured that out. If I was gonna get 1 million, yeah. So it's bullshit. Like it's total bullshit. But for you, how
Right.
it occurs, it's like, oh my God, my calendar, I was so busy. I'm like, no, 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 you were avoiding it. You were avoiding it. It wasn't fun. It was scary. It was like whatever, and you avoided it. You allowed yourself to get distracted. So we gotta start telling the, you gotta start getting present to the impact, and you gotta start getting present to the fact that you're making choices. Because if you do that, well, now we have something that we can work with, right? Because if you're present to the fact that you're making choices, well, now we can work on you making different choices. Now, with making different choices comes a couple of things. You might need to, well, you'll definitely have to recontextualize the choice. Because the reason we avoid things is because it occurs for us in a particular way. And something that I really teach people is the power of language and understanding that's how we create. Language is the way that we create. When you create a goal, it doesn't exist anywhere other than
Mm.
in language.
Yep.
I'm gonna sell $10,000 next month. Well, where is that? I can't. It's just something you said, right? It right now. It's a concept that only exists in language. People are like, oh, it exists in the future. I'm like, nope. You don't have a crystal ball. Oh, in my head, no. If I cut your head open, I'm not gonna find a goal for $10,000 in there. It really exists in language, in your word. The problem is that we're very sloppy with our words. We're very
Hmm.
sloppy with our language. We say things. Oh, I'm gonna be there in 10 minutes. I'll call you right back. I'm going to the gym tomorrow. I'm gonna do, like we use language in all these in really irresponsible ways. So I really teach people to really hone in on understanding the power of their word and having integrity around their language because that's how we create. The moment you understand that, you can say, oh, then the declarations that we make have power. If because if you know yourself to be someone who doesn't keep their word, and by the way, guys, if you put something on your calendar, that's giving your word.
Hmm.
Some of you don't relate to your calendar as your word, and so you put all these things there like, oh, sales calls tomorrow, and then you don't do them. But that's another place where it lacks integrity. So tightening up that the language and tightening up how you're making choices and tightening up how you're, choosing to create with your language is absolute key to be able to create anything in life and to be able to lead in life. And so that's really the foundation, right? It's really and we do that through real life experiences. You we create goals, we declare stuff, and then we look at it like, did you get it done? Okay, well, what happened? Oh, I was busy. I'm like, were you really busy? Okay, so what
Yeah.
were you really avoiding? Oh, I was avoiding this. Okay, great. Now is the truth. So now, how do we recontextualize that sales call for you? How do we use language to create a different context around the sales call so that you can actually be able to have freedom around the sales call? So I don't, is this, are we record, is the video going to publish for this or is it just audio?
No, we'll publish the video as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. So those of you that are listening, you just gotta visualize this. But I'm holding an index finger, right? So in the context of body parts, this is a finger, right? In the context of number, what is this, Joe?
One.
In the context of direction,
Up.
in the context of restaurant,
Order. Check.
check. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So same thing, right? It's same thing. I haven't changed it, but I changed the language around it.
Hmm.
And so when I change the language around it, you interact with it differently. You see different opportunities, you see different possibilities, you utilize it differently. That's, successful people just have the power to recontextualize the language around them. The circumstance is the same, right? The finger is the circumstance, it doesn't change. But when I go body part, number, all of a sudden
Hmm.
I change how I relate to it. And that's really the key of ownership. When I get an ownership for the fact that I have this context, I can change the context to a context that would give me power, that would give me access to something else. Oh, how do I make this thing that I've been dreading, that I've been avoiding, how do I make this fun? Right? How do I make this work for me so that I can still do it? Do I need support? Do I need to, it's like, do I need to um get someone to sit with me, like a, body double? Like, but when we have, one of the things that I did, so this came to mind. So I have ADHD. Most entrepreneurs in my experience have ADHD, but it's something that I've only really discovered almost in my 50 years old, that I suspected it, but I just got my diagnosis like last year.
Mm.
And one of the reasons that I've been able to like live and have a successful life with this is because I really follow my word. I use this distinction of following my word, honoring my word, no matter what. But what happens is people will say, "Oh, my ADHD, I got distracted." Well, that's not an excuse.
Right.
You're still accountable. Like, you still have to get it done. It's like, "Oh, I got busy." I'm like, well, but in your business plan, you still have three sales calls that you needed to make today. So what are we gonna do to make that to make that up, right? There's a way that we just go, oh, I didn't get done. I'm like, no, 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 no. How are you gonna handle that? Like, you still
Yep.
are accountable for it, right? So anyway, hopefully that helps.
No, I think that's great. And I love your finger example. I'm gonna put that one in the memory bank and
Yeah,
use it going forward. That's awesome. It and changing how you think about things is so important. I have a little story slash joke that I use to illustrate that same point. There's a couple of them actually. The first one is there's two little boys, like 8 years old, and they share the same birthday. And on their birthday, they take each of them into a separate room, but each room is empty except for a huge pile of horseshit. And the first kid goes in and goes, "Oh, this is terrible. It's my birthday. I'm stuck in this room full of horseshit. I don't understand why this is happening. I should be getting presents." The other kid in the other room runs to the pile of horseshit and furiously starts digging through it with his bare hands. And they're like, "What are you doing?" He says, "Hey, with all that horseshit, there's got to be a pony in there somewhere." Right. So
yeah,
they're in the same area. And then to go like to your sales call, having the accountability, there's two guys, they're on the same lake ice fishing, they're about 200 feet apart. One guy has not caught, I had a nibble all day, hasn't caught a thing. The other guy is pulling fish out like it's his job. And finally, the guy that's getting shut out has to go to the guy that's catching a bunch of fish to find out what the secret is. So he goes over and says, "Hey, how come you're catching all these fish and I'm not?" And the guy looks up at him and he says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." He's like, "Well, I couldn't understand what you said." He says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." He says, "Sorry, I'm not getting it." So the guy spits a bunch of worms out of his mouth and says, "You got to keep the worms warm," and pops them back in his mouth and goes back to fishing. And then my question is, do you, with whatever we're talking about, are you willing to keep the worms warm? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to be successful? And if you're
yeah,
not, I question if you truly want it or if you just want the idea of it, because those are
yeah,
two different things. You might love the idea, but the process by which you deliver what you're talking about is really going to suck for a while. Are you willing to let it suck for a while? Are you willing to push through it? Are you willing
yeah,
to keep the worms warm to get there? So I those stories have always resonated with me and I use them a lot to try to
yeah.
reframe the way people think about things.
And I just want to respond to what you said too, because it's brilliant in keeping the warms warm. It there's you can choose to make that fun, right?
Yep.
Or you can choose to suffer through it, right? Or it's like, and that's part of it, because even if you choose to go, and then the whole time you're like, well, that's going to impact your experience. It's going to impact your magnetism. It's going to impact how you have sales calls. It's going to impact your creativity. But if you're really in the space of like, I'm keeping these warm worms warm, because I'm building this vision, because I know that it's bringing me my future, because I'm gonna be able to take my kids to Disney World this year. Like, whatever it is, it's gonna make this juicy for you. It creates a different context for you to operate in, and that has you show up differently. It has you take different actions. You really do have the power to
Mm,
recontextualize the game and however you want to do it. It's the whole plot of the Matrix, guys. Okay, that movie series is effing brilliant, and it's because it really is like the moment you get, oh, you can recontextualize it. Like I can change the Matrix around whenever I want, however I want.
mhm. Yep.
Okay, well now you're Neo, you know.
No, exactly. Exactly. And successful people, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like you said, make it fun, learn to embrace the suck. And I can remember when I was a kid, like especially in high school, when I knew, I was going to wind up going to college and playing baseball, I took it real serious. So I trained year round. And when other people were out screwing around and chasing girls at the beach, I was running stadium stairs or I was in the weight room. And it wasn't particularly fun. It's 90 degrees out, you're sweating your ass off. It's hard work. But I remember thinking when I am playing professional baseball, this will be worth it. I will look back and say, thank God I did all this stuff to put myself in a position to achieve what I want to achieve. And that was
Yeah,
worth it to me. That was the trade-off. And so that gave me energy. I was like, the people that I'm going to compete against, they're not doing what I'm doing right now. They're not putting in the work that I'm putting in right now. I'm gaining an advantage on my competition. This is fucking awesome. I'm going to run these
yeah,
steps again. You know,
yeah.
you can literally mind fuck yourself into that mentality.
Yeah. Well, that's I'm so glad you said that because part of the game, it people don't realize that it takes work to hold a vision in place. Like, because again, context is what creates your experience. Context is what has you get up in the morning, right? And say, I'm going to go for it, right? But here's the thing, context doesn't stay in place. You've had that experience of like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to the gym. Tomorrow
Mm.
I'm starting my meal plan. And you get up and you put all your clothes out and you put your shoes ready and you set the alarm and you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning and you're like, ah, shit, it's raining. I'll start tomorrow. It's raining. I'm just gonna stay in bed a little bit longer, right? Like, and you meant it yesterday. Like you really meant it. Like you
Yeah.
really were like, yeah, and you were like you were excited actually. You like did all the you put all the things. Context doesn't stay in place. We have to keep recreating it. We have to keep developing mechanisms and to hold it in place, to bring it back to life, to breathe life into it. That's why community is so important. That's why plugging yourself into spaces like this is so important because it what it does is it helps you hold the context in place. When you come to this podcast and you listen to these conversations, it reinforces for you what's possible. It reinforces for you the game. But that is work. Like you have to actually do the work, and there are going to be days where you really have to dig in and do that, because there's going to be days where you really don't want to go to the gym, but you get yourself up and you do it. And it doesn't mean you're awful if you can't do it that day, but the next day, then that's the game. Like bring it back. Don't get caught up now in like, oh, I fucked that up yesterday. I failed. It's not gonna work. It's like, no, no, no. Okay, yesterday was a bad day. Today's a new moment. Let's get back in the game. Right? Let's get back in the game. You have to do not take for granted that part of leadership is really recontextualizing the future and holding it in place and bringing it back and holding the vision and reminding yourself and those around you what the vision is because that's what has us show up. So that's such a brilliant example. It's like you're willing to go through the pain of missing out on all the partying and because you see it, you see what's possible. Did you see, were you certain in that moment that you were like doing it, where like how, or was it like, how were you, what was your state of mind about it? Were you like, this is happening, or were you like, I hope this happens?
No, I knew that I was going to pursue it.
Yeah,
It was the only thing I cared about. So
yeah,
I did pretty well in school. And so after my junior year, I actually wrote, and I'm from Portland, Oregon. That's where I'm originally from. And so if you wanted to play like, really competitive college baseball back in the day, there were typically three states to do it in: California, Arizona, and Florida. And California was closest, so that was the one that made the most sense to me. And so I wrote a letter to every college in the state of California. I went to the
Mm.
guidance counselor's office, and I'm 53, so you and me are from the same generation, Gary. So there was no online anything. You wanted something, you
Nope.
went to the library or you looked it up in a book. And so I went to the guidance counselor's office and I got a listing of all the colleges in California. I got a book that had all the colleges in California and their
Yeah.
addresses. And I wrote a letter and I sent one to all, I think it was like 116 colleges in California, including the junior
Wow.
colleges, and said, my name's Joe Canfield. Here's my statistics for my junior year. Here's my last report card. I'm playing baseball for somebody next year. And I want to talk to you about playing for your school. And little did I know that at that point, you weren't allowed to recruit outside the state unless someone made contact with you first. I didn't know
Huh.
that at all. I just knew what I wanted and I was going to do what
Yeah.
I could to put myself in a position to get it. So after I sent that letter, they're like, who's this fucking guy? He looks like a good baseball player. He can clearly get in. He's got the grades. We want to talk to him. So I
Yeah.
started getting all these phone calls and all these letters back from all of these schools and actually took a trip with my dad, drove from Oregon to California and just set up a tour and talked to like 6 or 7 schools before I picked one and played there the following year. And
Yeah.
so there was no doubt in my mind I was going to make it, but I also never took it for granted. I never thought that I was just good enough. I was so good I could do or go wherever I wanted. I knew I had to work to put myself in the best position possible to be successful. And so that's what motivated me. I literally would think
Yeah.
that thought when I was running and I wanted to quit or I didn't like it. I would say, this is going to be worth it. This is going to be worth it down the road. Keep going. Take another
Yeah.
step, run another lap,
Yeah.
whatever, do another set in the weight room, whatever it was.
Because when you have that certainty, it it it's easier. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but
Yep.
it gives all the pushing through. Because really, at the end of the day, the biggest thing that we're afraid of is that it may not happen.
Mm,
And so there's a way that we try to minimize the risk by not putting ourselves completely out there. Because what if it doesn't happen? What if we fail? What if we look bad? What if we have to like explain to everybody that we didn't do it? Like that's the stuff that holds us back. That when you can, as you said earlier, mind fuck yourself
mm,
to really be in a place of certainty, it makes all the difference. Now, here's the thing. You can't do that if you don't know yourself to be someone who can keep their word.
mm,
if you if you know yourself to be someone who cannot keep their word, you can't do that because your body and your subconscious will go, yeah, right. Like I'm not putting like you ain't shit. Like we're not no, right? So if you have that, and again, that's the imposter syndrome. So some of you may need to start building that muscle by literally finding small ways to keep your word every day. Just declare something that you're going to do for 30 days and do it. Like no matter what, like the house like the house has to be on fire for you to stop, right?
mm.
Like with the certainty of brushing your teeth. Hopefully you brush your teeth every day, right? But there's certain things that we do that no matter what, like we're just doing
Yes.
that, right? Like it's like if you do that, I don't care what it is. It literally could be a meditation, a prayer, a action, going live, on your Instagram page. Declare you're gonna do something for a period of time, and then celebrate the shit out of it, and go, okay, what worked about that? What didn't work about that? What do I acknowledge myself for? What would I learn? What would I do differently? Right? Like debrief it because then you can integrate the lessons. That's another thing that gets in our way. We don't stop to debrief it. We have a failure and we just go, okay, let me move on to the next thing. It's like, no, no, no. What did you learn from that? What did you learn from that failure? What worked? Something worked. What would you do differently?
Yep.
Right? And what can you be grateful for? You got to ask yourself those questions, or the lesson of the failure never gets integrated. You just like avoid it and push it aside because you're embarrassed or whatever you're trying to avoid. Again, it goes back to that idea that human beings are really good at avoiding the impact of something. But when you ask yourself those questions after any failure, then you learn the lesson, and that lesson becomes yours, and now it can empower you for whatever the next thing is. Um, so yeah, if you just keeping your word is like the number one thing you can do to build that leadership muscle, man. It really, and you can start out with something silly, but then you know yourself like, oh wow, I can keep my word for 30 days. That was hard, but I did it. Right? Oh, I didn't eat a cookie for 30 days. Wow, I can't stop eating cookies when I go
Hmm.
there.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is, right? Um, yeah. And not just when nobody's looking. Because that's the other thing. We're really good at keeping our word when we know we're gonna get in trouble. That's not
Totally.
what I'm talking about, right? That's not leadership. That's not you keeping your word. That's you avoiding looking bad. That's you being in control. That's survival,
Oh my
right?
gosh, totally. Yes.
But when you keep your word because, oh no, I'm a person that keeps my word, even when no one's looking, especially when no one is looking. Well, now you get to know yourself to be that. So then the next time you declare something, you have muscle to hold it in place.
Yeah, and
You
that's
know,
that you're right. It is like willpower is a muscle. You build
yeah.
it and it gets stronger the more you exercise it. And if you're starting from a place where you haven't done it before, totally agree with you. If we stick with like going to the gym, maybe your first week you say, you know what? I'm just going to go to the gym every weekday this week. I don't even care if you work out. Get in your car, drive there, walk in so you're in the gym. Like build the habit that way. See, you could do that.
I I met someone, she was like, I think she was like one of my first guests on my podcast, and she shared that trick. She said, the days that I don't want to go to the gym, I get up and I go to the gym and I just sit outside.
Yep.
I was like, she's like, because at least I worked that muscle of going there. And I was like, okay, okay, that's cool.
And
I
you
never
know what you'll
understood.
find more often than not when you're sitting in the parking lot, you'll be like, well, fuck, I'm already here. I should do
Let me just
something,
go
shouldn't I?
inside. Yeah. Let me just go get on a bike.
Yeah, whatever it is. Like, and that's I use the flat tire analogy to explain this because we all do it. I do it. I live in a glass house, so I don't throw stones. I'm not immune to any of the things that we're talking about or any of the
Yeah.
perceived faults or challenges or mental fuck ups that we're talking about here. I'm guilty of all of them at certain stages in my life. But let's say that you have a flat tire on your car. Would you, in reaction to that flat tire, slash the other three tires and set your car on fire? Of course not. You would change the tire. But why is it when you're on a nutrition plan or a streak and you eat a
Hmm.
donut or you have a piece of cake? Well, I've already screwed it up. So why don't I just order a whole pizza and then I'll go get a whole cake from the bakery and eat that too. And I'll down two,
Yeah.
2 liters of Coca Cola. And I'm just going to go off the reservation now because of one little mistake.
It's
And
the
we do it.
judgment part.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We,
It's the
we, we all
judgment.
do it. Yeah.
Because now you're focused on the judgment instead of like the solution, instead of like the goal. You're like, what's wrong with me? Oh, I fucked this up. Let me go punish myself. And then you're like, and then you get to the point
Totally.
where you're like, "Ugh."
Yes. And you've got to develop the mental fortitude to accept what happened. To your point, ask yourself why it happened. Ask yourself what you learned from it. Ask yourself
Yeah.
what you would do different. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I got to enjoy a donut. And now it's back on the program. It is what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
I,
I
I
really
can't
needed a
unring the
donut
bell.
yesterday. Yeah. I
Yeah.
really needed that yesterday. Today is a new day. Absolutely. 100%.
Yes, for sure. Well, so Gary, is there anything I haven't asked you about yet or any subject that you want to make sure we talk about? And I'll call this your first appearance on Salty Ginger Talk because I'm certain we will
Uh,
have you back on in the future. But is there
I
anything we
love
haven't
that.
covered yet that you feel important for to get in front of our audience for this episode?
Um, I feel really good about everything we've talked about. I think, the one thing that I want people to understand is that this stuff that we're talking about, the mindset, the the ownership, the leadership component, and bringing leadership to the aspects of your life that are asking for it. It's a skill you learn. It's, some days you're hitting it out of the park, and some days you will fuck it up royally. It's a muscle, and it's a journey, and you never arrive anywhere. You're always, the moment you climb one step, you're at the bottom of the next one. And I think it's really important that people bring that understanding to it, because again, the judgment is what takes us out. Because if you set a goal to be a better leader or keeping your word, let's say a lot, some of you might get off this podcast and go, you know what? I'm gonna really take on what Gary said. I'm gonna really take on 30 days of keeping my word around X. And you may have a failure. You may have a setback, right? You may have a business trip that throws you off. You may have a child that got sick. You may have, or you just may have a slip up. It's okay. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this, and get back in the game. This is the have compassion for yourself, not from a place of letting yourself to hook. What gets you off the hook is if you don't really evaluate and handle it. Meaning, okay, I missed this. What am I doing? I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna start my 30 days over, right? Or I'm gonna do it twice tomorrow,
Mm.
right? Or I'm gonna extend another day at the end to make up for the one that I missed out. Like, what are you gonna do to restore the integrity of the promise, right? when you when you do that, then it has integrity. Then you're actually still have word in it. What doesn't work is when you just ignore it, when you just go and you blow up the whole thing. So just have compassion for yourself. It's like any baby learning how to walk. You wouldn't be all like, oh, what's wrong with you, come on. You'd probably be like, all right, what do we need here? Okay, well, let's hold on to the edge. Okay, well, why don't you hold on to this? Okay, oh, shake it off, let's get back in there. And I really wish that people would approach themselves in that way, with that type of compassion, because life is hard enough. You don't have to make it harder on yourself by being a jerk to yourself. That's my last word.
I love it. And I think it's 100% correct. And it's such a valuable lesson. And like to your point, it never ends. Like you don't just cross the finish line on this and go there. This will always work for me all the time, no matter what. It's like the
Yeah,
ocean. Once a wave crashes on the beach, there's another wave coming, and you better be ready for
100%.
it. And if you want to live a successful life, you're going to be prepared for it. You're going to get back on the saddle when you get bucked off the horse, you know?
Bigger and better.
Yep, for sure. Well, Gary, thank you so much for joining us on
Thank
Salty Ginger
you.
Talk. I really enjoyed our conversation. You did
Same.
such a great job. If you want to connect with Gary, we'll have all of his information in the show links, or in the show notes, I'm sorry, including links. I know he's got his website. He's got his podcast. If you want him to speak, he does speaking engagements. And so all of that stuff is available in the show notes. And again, this won't be the last time you see Gary. We'll air this episode. We'll give a little time. We'll have him back on because there's plenty of stuff to talk about. And great guest, Gary. Great job. Really,
Thank
really
you,
appreciate you
brother.
joining us.
Thank
Yep.
you, thank you, thank you. This was such an honor. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, guys. So there you go. Like we said, we certainly did not oversell Gary at all. He just hit it out of the park and did such a great job covering all of the topics that we talked about, wide ranging, both personal accountability, professional accountability. He talked about how he started as a graphic designer and art designer and worked for big companies and had like a really good setup, but it wasn't for him. And so he set out on his own and kind of fumbled his way through it for the first 5 years until he figured out how to make it work. He kept taking action, he kept learning, he kept growing, he kept changing things, and has been wildly successful since then. And love all the tips and tricks he gave to you guys on how to take personal accountability on your mindset, personal accountability on your actions, and talked a lot about having the personal integrity to yourself and your commitment to yourself and the words that you say. So, what a great job by Gary. We'll definitely have him back on the channel again. Loved having him. Great guy. Really enjoyed our conversation. So, James puts it up over here every day. Don't forget to head to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All the podcast episodes are there. All the social media account links are there. We've got a newsletter we publish every weekday. You can subscribe to there. And please like, share, comment, subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. It's super helpful if you're able to do that. So you don't want to miss all the tips that you get from us, that you get from the awesome guests that we find to bring on and share with you guys. Make sure you catch our next episode. I will see you there.